Which clock is right? We good? Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ellis County Commission meeting. All those capable, please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Present.
Chair Nathan Liker.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. There are no changes to the order of business, so the agenda will proceed as presented. Prior minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look through those?
Yes.
Yep, fine.
Okay. No changes to the minutes. Moving on to our consent agenda. Have we had a chance to look through that?
Yes.
That's good. I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Agenda is approved. At this time, we'll have people that are not on the agenda. Anyone from the public that wish to speak on anything that's not on our agenda? Okay. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the introduction of new employees.
Good morning, Jennifer Taylor, Ellis County HR.
Good morning.
And I have one department here with 2 new hires, and I will let Gary go ahead and introduce them.
Morning, Commissioners. Gary
Morning.
Haas, Weed Control
Morning, Gary.
Supervisor.
Good morning.
Here this morning, to let you know we are fully staffed, and we have 2 new employees. Damon Bryant, he's starting his 3rd week right now. He comes to us with a commercial applicator license. He's done some spraying already and does some drone spraying, so he's got him. And then starting his 2nd week is Mackenzie Gross, and he comes to us with fabricating and welding experience. So glad to have him.
Good deal.
Sure
Welcome
do.
aboard,
Welcome.
guys.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have public hearing, sale of the Public Works Building. Counselor?
We need to open the public hearing and solicit comments from the,
Okay. Pull this up.
excuse me, County Councilor Bill Jeter.
Did I miss one? Okay, no.
No, I'll move to open the public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on the sale of Public Works property.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, our public hearing is now open. Okay, at this time, is there any public input on the sale of the property mentioned? No. Okay,
We good? Then I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay. I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, we'll need a third motion to go ahead and accept the bid as presented.
Okay, I'll move to accept the highest bid of $605,000 for Midwest Pipeline Works for the sale and the purchase of the Public Works facility located at 195 200 Avenue, 280th, I'm sorry. 195.
1195, I made a mistake.
Oh, okay, sorry, 1195.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, bid is accepted.
I will, for information purposes, I'll prepare a contract and meet with Midwestern Pipe, and once we have their approval, Darren and I will bring it back to the commission for final approval.
Okay,
And then it'll go to abstracting for title commitment. And once title's been approved, then we'll schedule a closing, which one of the things we discussed was to have the closing after January 1st.
okay. That would be suffice. Any comments? Commissioner? Okay. Very well. Next item is Fort Hays State University update.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come and give a brief update of the university. I have at your place our 2023 impact statement, so we are currently working on 2024. And then inside, there are a couple of slides that I'm going to quickly walk through. And first, I wanted to start off by simply saying thank you for your support. It's always a pleasure to come here and give you an update. And also, as councils and individuals, I know that you have supported Fort Hays State University. I want to just take a moment to say thank you very much. And last time I came, I learned that you had created a new scholarship for some of the employees. And so thank you for that as well. And although our annual fall enrollment press release is still under embargo, I won't be able to talk about enrollment, but it will be out this week, and it's looking good. That's all I can say. So I'll go quickly through some of the slides. I wasn't sure that you were aware, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about the Ellis County Advantage. So any student from Ellis County who wants to live on campus and are on-campus housing automatically receives a $2,000 scholarship. And that's every year that they stay in the residence hall. That's specific to Ellis County, and the reason why we do that is we know it's very tempting to stay at home when you're here, but all of the research data, including ours on campus, indicates that students do better when they live on campus. So we are trying to incentivize that, and over the past few years, trying to keep students on campus. If they return, they get additional incentives. For Ellis County residents, those additional incentives apply on top of the $2,000. So the $2,000 is renewable, and then it's another $500 for the second year, and another $1,000 for the third year, so on. Also, access and affordability have always been our North Star, and so this slide data comes from the Kansas Board of Regents, and you can see that we are always driving affordability, and on top of our tuition rate, we layer scholarships to create more value and opportunity for our students. I want to give a really brief update on the affiliation. We are so excited to partner with Fort Hays Tech North Central and Fort Hays Tech Northwest. I want to thank everyone who has been out to the celebrations. Our tech partners have done an incredible job. It wasn't until June of 2024 when the Higher Learning Commission officially said that we're approved to move forward, and within just a couple of months, our partners have touched every part of the institutions with rebranding, with campus signs to stationery to athletic gear, and even the signs in Hays have all been changed, the directional signs, which is wonderful. Last week, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony at Walmart for our new Tiger Gear Nation store, so we're very appreciative of that. I learned, and I don't know if you know, but there are 3,500 stores nationally of Walmart. Our store in Hayes is 85th in our nation in the selling of collegiate gear. That's pretty incredible. We continue to work on pathways for our students that allow students from a 2-year program to come into a 4-year program. A few examples that we've already worked through is an associate's degree in respiratory therapy will go right into a bachelor's degree in nursing. An associate's in carpentry will go right into a bachelor's in construction management, and an associate's in agriculture equipment technology will go into general agriculture. There are a lot of things happening in this space, and we're creating efficiencies by looking at some different infrastructures among our institution as well. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about how we're working with the high schools and dual and concurrent enrollment to ensure that anything that they take, they don't waste time or money, will come to all 3 of our institutions seamlessly. And also, not only do tech students have opportunity to come to Fort Hayes, but especially through our new Gen Ed program where we have flexibilities, we're creating new opportunities for our students to take classes at the technical colleges. For example, our construction management students and probably even ag would probably benefit from a CDL license. And so we're looking at all kinds of different ways that we can blend our curriculum. And so also in your packet, you have what we call our AIT, our Affiliation Implementation Teams. So there's a quick handout. It's front and back, and it shows you a lot of initiatives. And every semester, we roll out more and more initiatives and people across our institutions working together to provide a really powerful experience for students across our institutions. In terms of the future focus, one of the things we're really excited about is working together on grants so we can get more money when we work together and we can make a bigger impact on our region. We've got one going right now that will be working in the construction area, and we're also in the beginning stages in agriculture. And we're always looking at how we interact with business and industry. We've had a couple meetings with Eco-Devo professionals as well. Historically, higher education has said, we will educate our students and you come and get them. And we're trying to figure out how we can be more proactive to work with the community so our students stay in the region. If there are other things that we can address regarding your thoughts on Ellis County, please do let us know because we're always interested in finding solutions. I wanted to talk a little bit about the 2024 legislative support. Fort Hayes was very blessed and we're very grateful. On the slide in the top, you'll see that the Kansas Board of Regents received dollars that are going to go to all the institutions to help with student success, more need-based aid, cybersecurity and IT infrastructure, as well as capital renewal and campus restoration, all of the things that we've been working on, and the extra support is really, really helpful. Specifically to Fort Hayes State University, we were very successful in seeking funding for a Stroop Hall expansion. So there'll be a 2-story expansion on the front of Stroop Hall for 2 reasons. One, we continue to have growth in our very successful, outstanding nursing program, and with that growth, we're also going to bring allied health over from Cunningham, where it's historically been, into Stroop, so there'll be a lot of synergy between those students and those professions. We also are now launching, with support of legislators, a telehealth certification for mental health providers, knowing that as a lot of people, especially post-COVID, are doing a lot of telehealth, that there are ethics and legal and best practices that need to be taught. We think we're ahead of accreditation on this. We've also launched a professional and continuing education part of our institution. So when you think about AI and reskilling and upskilling, how do people do those in short bites as well as stackable credentials? And part of that, we're launching a credential on business expansion, retention and expansion. That's part of the affiliation as well. And we're looking to get some regional stabilization, and we got a little bit last year And so you'll see on those next two slides that there's a huge parity issue in higher education funding. And so I've asked the Board of Regents to address this, and in the summer meeting, they put together the sector slide. And so to make apples into apples, they looked at full-time equivalents and also local funding and put together the comparison between technical, community, Washburn, regionals, and the research universities. And as you can see from this chart, of all of those sectors on the apples-to-apples comparison, the regional universities, Emporia, Pitt, and Fort Hays, are funded the lowest per students. So we looked at this data in preparing for this next legislative session, and we simply asked, what would it cost the state regional institutions to achieve 75% of the research university's funding? Again, this is the money that goes to their students. And the answer was $60 million behind 75% of the funding that they receive. So if you see on the next slide, I also have been concerned about this for many years, as I know President Hammond was also concerned about this. I asked the board office to look between Fort Hays, Pitt State, and Emporia State. It would cost approximately $5.5 million for Emporia State to reach the 75% threshold. It would cost approximately $7.8 million for Pitt State to reach the 75% threshold, and it would cost $46 million for Fort Hays to reach the 75% threshold. That's how much funding that we do not receive. And it is incredible the value that we deliver for our students with a lack of funding that we receive as a parity. And I recognize that there are a lot of really important needs of the states, but can you imagine how impactful we could be as we drive forward our value proposition and with proportionate funding? So any legislative support that you can help us with as you interact with legislators for your needs, just to tell our story. We're not asking for everything, but we really do need some help. The world in higher education has gotten very competitive, and we are simply out-resourced. We're doing pretty incredible under the circumstances. And so on the next slide, you'll see, again, another value proposition, and that is our Fort Hays graduates bring economic prosperity to Kansas communities. And you will see there that their average wage that they receive when they graduate is higher than KBOR collectively. Our students are getting good jobs, and they are more likely to stay in our region, which is really important to us. In the enrollment press release that will come out later this week, you'll also see one of our focus is that we continue to serve Kansans. We have an increase. And when you think about our loss over the last few years since the pandemic, that's been largely in the online modality and largely out of state, because during the pandemic, everybody went online and students are going to other institutions closer to home. The next slide you'll see is one that you've seen on this chart before. It is the economic impact that Fort Hays brings to our area. This study is being updated, and it will be released again by January. I just wanted to remind you that we remain partners with you. We're grateful for all your support, and we're here to help. So I will remain brief, say thank you very much, and I'm happy to stand for any questions that you have.
Thank you for bringing this. You have a big expansion starting on the Forsyth Library. How's that going?
It is going well, and we're hope that will be done in about March of 2026, I believe. We're very excited about it.
Very well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you for what you do.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have road issues and discussion for Stonewood Estates North.
Hi there.
Good morning. Good morning.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Jennifer Teagat. I'm the president for Stonewood Estates North subdivision. I appreciate you all hearing me today. I'm going to start with a little bit of history because I do understand the last time we addressed the commission, none of you were commissioners, so I'll give a little bit of history. It is incredible to think that the plat and dedication for our subdivision was filed 20 years ago. Initially, the roads met the needs of the residents and continued to do so for many years. However, that is no longer the case. The road base has deteriorated and the top layer is insufficient for rain and other adverse weather conditions. This is obvious and expected as there have been a consistent and significant increase in residential traffic as well as related increases in utility, delivery, service provider, and construction vehicles. Although the county has been addressing immediate needs and doing basic preventative maintenance during this time, I am not aware of any substantial rework projects or permanent solutions that have been undertaken. As a result, earlier this summer, our HOA requested our Roads Committee reach out to the county for any updates. Ty Wilson contacted Brendan McKay to get an update on any county plans for the roads in our subdivision, which includes Hilltop Drive, Ridge Road, and Summit Road. Mr. McKay shared with Mr. Wilson the county's plans to rework our road base, incorporating limestone as well as addressing our trouble spots before the end of this calendar year. During their discussion, he asked Mr. Wilson to consult with the lot owners to gather information and to determine their approval or disapproval for the plans. Upon completion, Mr. Wilson followed up with Mr. McKay and spoke with our District Commissioner, Neil Younger. Mr. Younger suggested that a representative from our HOA address the Ellis County Commission in person regarding this matter. It is for this reason that I stand before you here today, to thank you for inviting us and for hearing our thoughts. As I just mentioned, Mr. Wilson has updated a great majority, if not all of our lot owners, of the current county plans. As you might imagine, the reception was varied. While as an HOA we cannot affirm or reject any county plans, I can share some of our common thoughts and conversations. The HOA has had years of open communications with the county. We appreciate the county has always worked with us and where possible tended to our concerns. The county has informed the HOA that a reworked maintenance plan has recently been developed, a regularly scheduled plan. The HOA appreciates the proactive steps and looks forward to it being executed appropriately and timely. Regarding the proposed plans for this fall, many members were concerned about the use of limestone. While various workers have been installing new gas lines along 270th and Vineyard Avenues, we have seen the adverse effects on the people, land, and houses of all the dust that was created by the chalk roads. The HOA will continue to document any worsening situations or unintended consequences that come from the plans that are currently being presented for our subdivision. We appreciate the county being open to hearing these concerns, giving them further consideration and addressing them if necessary. Several years ago, the county requested that we let them know of any as-needed work, for example, potholes, washouts, washboarding, muddy areas where we get stuck, things along that line. We appreciate the county welcoming our concerns and notifications and addressing them. While most of the above we view as positive, there were some negative ones as well. Some history is relevant here. We have been trying to address the condition of our roads with the county in a formal capacity for the last 7 to 8 years and informally about 10 years. During these conversations, the types of responses we receive go back and forth between two main categories. This is the minimum we can do, or nothing can be done at all, which is pretty standard when you're starting projects. At one time, the city county had federal money that was earmarked for road maintenance or improvements. The money was returned without completing any work in our area. Various reasons were given, but in the end, the improvements never happened. We've been told that roads could not be treated or maintained because of broken equipment or that is either too expensive to fix or worse, that we didn't even have any money to replace them, so work just didn't take place. We've been told that there is no money in the budget for water, replacing equipment, or other materials. We also were told, based on those things, to raise our own funds, and then the county would see what they could do and have more conversations. The work for that happened over some time, maybe a year or two on our end, and during that time, the county communicated parameters and a budget. Over that time, the parameters kept changing and the budget increased exponentially. I believe it was 3 times in about a year timeframe. So as a result, we did not go forward on that project. So from our perspective, we've been either given interim options that ultimately became final solution or was told there was no solution at all until this past month. We were very excited that a solution has been presented, but it is the beginning and not a full comprehensive plan. So given our past history of projects not progressing past that initial stage, I hope you understand that we are extremely hopeful and excited, but still reluctant and skeptical. In line with the HOA's history, we have always been interested in communicating with the county and being kept abreast of its plans for our subdivision and surrounding areas. This has not changed. We still try to be proactive and try to be helpful where we can. We look forward to learning of the next steps and timing of how this project will move forward and to hearing the ideas for a more permanent, long-lasting improvement that will work in all weather conditions and then that plan being executed. I very much appreciate you allowing us to come and give our thoughts, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you for coming today. I've got a few questions.
Sure.
You had mentioned there's...
May I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
May I stop you for a second? Is it, I'm the president. I also have one of our roads committee members here, so if there are any questions that might be better for him to address, is that acceptable?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay,
You can,
go ahead
he can
then.
come up, or they can come up. So, first question is, you had mentioned some prior negotiations where, with the HOA. Do you have a year or time frame on that, when that might have taken place?
Yes. So that was part of what I was alluding to, is most of those things happened prior to you all, I think, being in place. I know that we started raising money in 2018, and so those conversations probably took place informally, probably 2015, 16, 17. I know we started just having various conversations, and then they progressed into that plan. I think probably 2016 or 17 was the most accurate time. Is that right, Ty? Okay.
Okay. And then as part of the HOA, you said the plot was dedicated, or the plat, I'm sorry, not the
Yeah.
plot, was dedicated back in 2000, or nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was
How many,
20.
are all the lots completely filled, or are there pre-existing lots that could be developed yet?
So all of the lots, there are 29 of them out of 30. Lot number 30 is a commons area. Actually, it's not number 30, but yeah, it is. I'm sorry. Lot number 30 is a commons area. There's a pond there and kind of a park. The rest of the plots are between 3 and 5 acres. I think we have one that's a little bit bigger. There are 29 of those, and all 29 are currently owned by individuals. There are some folks that, I think there are 2 families that own more than one lot with no intention to develop another house on those extra lots. So currently, we have 24 lots that we would consider developable, and 22 of them have houses on them. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So we have 2 that are owned by individuals that intend on building houses but have not yet. Does that answer all your question around that?
Yes.
I tried to
thank-
be a little
yeah,
thorough
yeah.
so you can understand.
Yes, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any others?
This is more going to be for Brendan, but you can answer if you want. What do we have as far as maintenance coming up for the remainder of the year for the area?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Morning, Commissioners. Brendan McKay, Ellis County Public Works Director.
Morning.
Could you repeat your question? I couldn't hear you.
There's maintenance projects that we're going to complete for this
Correct. We've got lots
before
of,
the end of the year or sometime?
yeah.
What have we got planned or?
So we do have our move to our new facility that'll be taking place this year. We have quite a few of the rock roads that have been just beaten up through the droughts over the past year that we intend to get to starting this winter. We also have the mill and overlay project for Catherine Road that we're going to be shouldering up this winter to provide rock there. So that way next spring when we reclaim that road and put an asphalt surface back over it, it's prepared for that. Then we also have the mill and reclaim to the existing limestone road up from Airbase to Vineyard roadway on Commerce Parkway, and then the city's portion in preparation to potentially paving that section of roadway. We've already done 1 mile of that 2.5 mile stretch, so we've got the other 1.5 miles to finish up.
Okay.
That answers your questions there.
Well, yeah, is there anything specific to Hilltop Drive that we're?
No major plans. The intent was for, if the HOA and the landowners were agreeable to us milling limestone into it to making a new road base, presenting that to the commission to vote on that, because the county has not done, to my knowledge, improvements to development roads, other than those that have been increased through a TIF, Tax Improvement Fund. There's 2 developments that has happened to. The rest we've maintained as is. So on these sand roads, without minimal base or no base to them, they look good, but unfortunately, once you start getting traffic on it, they don't hold up. About 3 years ago, we overlaid that whole stretch through the Stonewood Estates north with sand. But when you do a sand overlay, it's not, if we put down 3 inches of sand, you're going to have washboards galore out there. So the milling of the rock kind of gives it a base. It gives it a darker color, so it's not as much limestone, white chalk poking out. Because on the sand road, sand or gravel, you want about 20 to 25% binder material, whether that's clay, soil, soft rock, to bind the sand particles together. Because sand's round, it rolls. That's why it forms those washboards or waves. Out there, in a lot of development roads, they use a clean wash sand with no binder added to it. So they look great until you start getting traffic. And as Nathan, Commissioner Liker's aware, he lives on one, you can see exactly what happens to that when you start getting traffic on it. That you need that binder and that edge material brought back in or fines added to make a solid base for all weather travel.
I guess what kind of time frame would you be looking at? We all agree on to do something with that road, because 4 years ago when I campaigned, yeah, that road needed some attention. We were doing what we could. Now it's past that. When I was out there campaigning the last time, the road is in not good shape.
Yeah, it's what happens to a sand road when you start getting that traffic on it without having any binder in the sand or an engineered base underneath it. That's part of what the changes to the road standards that you guys passed a few weeks ago will hopefully prevent in the future. The intent would be, if when we're in the area doing the milling the sand and rock together to make a gravel base on 270th and the other section of Vineyard or 41st Street, our machines would be there. They could go up to the area to the north there and work at least just the trouble areas in that development, if not rework the entire development. Because there's areas of that are fine as is. There's actually some limestone base that's supporting the sand on top. Wouldn't need additional material, but there's a couple areas where drainage needs to be improved, or the driveways that come down to the roadway, their driveways aren't crowned and their driveway comes straight at the roadway. It's not laid back, so that water washes across the roadway. So we would like to do some changes there, but if I have my equipment in the area and the commission's agreeable to it, we can do the work then later this year or early
Are you
or next
looking at
spring.
a week, 4 days, 3 days while we got
Most
our
it would
equipment?
take us a week
Okay.
to do that. We would stockpile some rock ahead of time and get material there and laid out, and then it goes pretty quick when you're just milling the material up and relaying it back down and packing it.
You know, like Commissioner Liker said, that had the question asked how many lots. Well, from 20 years ago, them lots are full, and there's a lot of houses up
Right.
there. I feel that we should go in there and do it get it done. Do we want to patch around? I feel just do the whole thing, do it right the first time, and then work off of that. But that's my opinion. But anyhow, and I guess I would like to ask, how many negative people were there? I don't need no names or anything out of
Sure.
the house.
I'm going to actually ask Ty because he's the one that collected the information, and I have not seen the final numbers because, to your point, we're trying to
Okay.
keep it sort of anonymous.
Ty Wilson, Stonewood North. I went to every single neighbor as asked because I represent my neighbors. They are important. So every time a question like this comes up, I will go door to door. That is important, no different than you campaigning, to get a true aspect of what your neighbors do and want. I will not give you names. I can tell you that I spoke with every one of them, other than I will not fly to Hawaii for a consent, okay? We had 5 that disagreed with, I don't care, it's the county's issue, and they have the right to feel that way. The rest of them were, do something. We'll stand behind you, give it anything you can a try, because the can has been kicked too far down the road, gentlemen. That's just the facts. I've met with you, I know Mr. Burgess, Nate, we'll get to know each other, trust me, we will, not in a bad way. We all got to work together to get through the issue.
Yes.
And hopefully come to a more permanent solution. Fortunately, you guys have been extremely proactive and have done more for this county in the last 2 or 3 years than we've probably seen in 10 or 15. That has been a welcome. Somebody finally looked at the budget, went through it line for line. You created more money. You've created better avenues. Keep it up. Don't stop that momentum. That's all I ask. Anything else you need?
As I was campaigning up there and met with, I caught quite a few people home. The other road that we need to address is, I call it Commerce Parkway going north. I sat up on the hill and watched all the traffic. Where they're coming from is from the north is beyond me. It rained, so I let it stop and I come through there. I met a vehicle on that road. That road's narrow, and I've talked with Brandon on that, so we need to also widen that here in the future. I mean, quick
It was
future, because
interesting.
You
Not-
meet somebody, and I had my side-by-side, and I met a vehicle, and it was tight.
It was interesting. I got to speak with Brendan this last week. I'm always open with everybody. Everybody knows who I talk to. Almost everybody knows me because of my job. I'm even in this building. The traffic count was 250 cars a day that go by there. There's 24 residents that live in us, so we can get you close to 200 if a couple of people are coming and going. Where that extra traffic comes from, we couldn't tell you either. Brendan explained to me, guess what the highest speed rate was? Take a guess. Did you ever look at the data? What was the highest speed rate?
It was over 90.
91 miles an hour, less than 500 foot from the stop sign. I'm pretty sure that guy didn't stop. And I'm also not sure how his vehicle isn't in the ditch, because we all know there's a major bump at Vineyard and 270th. You have to come to almost a complete stop or a rolling stop, or you're in trouble. So how that guy even got that fast is beyond us. But I can also tell you the traffic information told us that on Vineyard, coming from Home Depot past 270th, which would go past Mr. Jude Gottschalk's house, it clocked it at 93 miles an hour. As soon as I get out of here today, there happens to be a vehicle that's been sitting on 270th for the last day. I'm going to call the sheriff's department. I'll publicly announce, I'll pay that guy's tow bill. Someone please move that vehicle. I typically leave for work very early in the morning, so I don't have to deal with a lot of traffic. Due to this commission meeting this morning, I just happened to get to come down that road at 7:50. My neighbor couldn't see me behind me. I couldn't see my neighbor in front of me. Luckily, I knew that vehicle was still halfway out in the road where somebody would have clipped it. That's all I care. Try to make it so that it's safe. Anything else you need?
Not at this time, I don't believe.
No, I got some more questions from Brendan, though.
Okay.
Well, addressing speed limits, they're allowed to, and this may be a legal question, but they can put those little signs that say I don't know, slow, children at play kind of things, and
I cannot put those out there.
they can.
If they put their not in the right of way, they can do as they wish. It's highly recommended that we don't put those signs out and do not allow them installed in the right of way, because if children should not be playing in the road,
Yeah.
and it sets a precedence. So it's strongly, strongly, strongly advised not to install those in the right of way or use county resources to install said signs. But landowners can do what they want on their own property, so they.
Okay. With the road, so Hilltop, I got this pulled up here. So we got Summit Road and Ridge Road out there too. Those are considered part county infrastructure. That's probably one of my concerns with it. I could see addressing Hilltop. Ridge Road, it looks like it only goes to one house, and we got to turn around through there.
Cul-de-sac down there, yeah.
Same with Summit. It's just a little.
There's
you know,
2 or 3 homes on that stretch.
If we're addressing Hilltop, I mean, that's a stretch that could be limestone, whatever we ultimately kind of work towards, but we got these 2 little pieces that I guess I have a little bit concern of trying to really address more to those sections.
And those ones don't experience near the severity of
Yeah.
wash or, because there's less traffic on them, honestly.
May I add something to that?
Sure.
So if you're looking at are you looking?
I got
from
the
down top?
GIS map
Oh, perfect.
down
Okay.
look, yeah.
So when Mr. Liker asked me earlier about the places that don't have homes,
Mm-hmm.
so the one is at the corner of Hilltop and Ridge
Mm-hmm.
on the southeast or southwest corner there. I'm sorry. So it's directly north of Mr. Rosine's house, the one that's on that road.
Mm-hmm.
So the lot just north of that is one that will have a house on it.
Okay.
And then across Hilltop, in that corner between Mr. Herman and Mr. Wilson, is where the other house. Those are the 2 to be developed,
Okay.
just for your information.
As like a longer-term solution, outside of just grinding limestone and recreating the base, is there any thought to essentially a chip and seal asphalt type?
It's not
Road.
currently in the asphalt plan that we created. Additional funding would need to be done, or sacrifice would have to be made on the road system to accommodate that. But before we would put a chip seal on that road, I would be milling rock into the base to make a new base for that material to ride on. So this would be the repairs that I'm recommending that if commission allows we go through with, would set it up to receive a auto seal, a chip and seal, or prime and double coat, or even true asphalt. But there needs to be a base to support that asphalt layer, especially if you're doing just a chip seal. There's no structural strength to that material, and there's no structural strength to the road as it currently exists, just being loose sand. It needs a base to support that. Otherwise, you've just spent quite a bit of money it'll be gone, it'll break out very, very quickly.
So this would be similar to Ellis Avenue. Get it in there, prepare it good, get it all how we want
We're doing
it.
the same thing to Vineyard now to prep it for potentially sealing that roadway for asphalt work. It'd be the same thing, except instead of adding sand to the rock, we're adding rock to the sand. Still making that nice gravel base that can support traffic loads and can be to support traffic loads to drive on as is, or support an asphalt mat of some type if the commission decides to go that direction in the future.
Okay.
But as it sits right now, I would not recommend putting any asphalt on that road as it sits, because there's no support for that. There's no strength to the roadway. So portions of it would stay in place, other portions would rut and break out, and we'd be in a much worse shape because we'd have to contend with the good portions with the bad portions. It'd be better to
Do the whole.
rebuild the road first, correct?
So to compare it to another headache that we have in the area, so Millstone Road, Yellowstone, that area, that's asphalt, correct? That also is county.
Is that the other Stonewood Estates
Yeah, it's on the,
off the bypass?
yeah.
Yep.
And those are different than what we have in Ellis. Those are true asphalt.
No, they're cold mix road.
They're cold mix.
County built cold mix roads with seal coats over the top. I believe that was funded by a TIF back in 1993.
Okay.
Just like the development further north of Stonewood Estates, I think it's Deer Creek Estates, off of Hopewell. up there. There's 2 or 3 roads back there that are paved. That was a TIF that was funded for those roads to be paved, where
Okay,
the homeowners paid up to 70% of the cost for paving the roadway, and the county paid for the remainder amount.
okay.
That's how both those developments got paved, was through the tax improvement funds, or TIF group. Kind of like how cities can put specials on lots and charge lots 100%, counties are eligible to do a TIF, which is 70%, up to 70% of the cost, unless the regulations have changed on that.
Okay. Can you address, so one of the things we've tried to address, just countywide, but it should help this, is we've created a 13th district to shrink down areas. Can you address that a little bit at this time, how that may help as far as just general maintenance and upkeep for their area? Because now we got, hopefully their area can get hit just a little bit more often just because we have smaller districts.
Looking at the road system overall, if you look at the southern half of the county, that's with predominantly sand roads. The moisture, in working them, you can get more covered than on a rock road. Right now, so with every territory being over 100 miles, the ones that are affected the most are from about Yosemite to 330th, 350th Avenue, north of Interstate. Those are our rock roads, predominantly rock roads, heavy trafficked rock roads. So the 13th territory will be going in northwest of Hayes in that area, which would shrink the territory north of it down and directly to the east, which is the territory that this would be, their development would be in. So those territories would be shrunken down in size, less miles for those operators to maintain, but they need to be smaller because of what it takes to work those roadways, what it takes to overlay those roadways, and the maintenance that's required on them, and the time frame being when you get the moisture for the rock, you can only get so much done before it dries out.
And we did increase some of the line items for such as water and sand and other aggregate materials for 2025.
That's correct. The challenging issue is finding the water sources. A lot of the sources that we have for water, their ponds are dry, or they do not want us in them, regardless of if we would pay more or not. They just not interested in selling water. So we're having to haul water from further and further and further away, or haul it from the city of Hayes all the way out to the county line, which we've had to do on some projects, which that eats a lot of time up. But it's the only option for water, and we need that to be able to work the roadways and to overlay roads and recompact things. Because portion of compaction is you need a moisture content in the material to be correct in order to achieve compaction.
Right.
So we've set our 2025 budget. Are we able to, if we want to address a little bit more here and redo the base and all that, are we able to do that within the 2025 budget, or are we thinking we need to
Nope, we can do that
work
within
towards
our,
2026?
Nope, we can do that base work and everything within current year's budget or 2025's budget. It's a
Okay.
very minimal amount monetarily for us to do it.
Okay.
Because the materials line item that I would need for this, we pay 50 cents a yard for that aggregate. We'll be spending diesel fuel and employees' wages regardless, so it's just shifting from a project to this project. And then the additional amount for the materials is going to be under $20,000 between water and aggregate. So not a very expensive project monetarily for costs that we would have over our daily operation costs.
Will that address some of your drainage concerns by doing this project?
It most likely would. There's a few homes that we'll need to work with them on their entrances that are, there's no slope to their driveways, and they come out of the road and tip into the roadway, so all the drainage that falls on their driveways, and, well, since it doesn't break off their driveways and enter the ditch, it blows clear across the roadway and cuts the roads up. There's 3 to 4 homes out there, I'd say that's an issue on. That is part of this, we would potentially rework their entrances to make it so that way the water breaks into the ditch and not carried straight across the roadway.
Will there be additional culverts or drainage inputs necessary?
As of right now, I'd say no.
Okay.
Most of the issues we have with the drainage is, like I said, the driveways forcing the water clear across the road and not getting it into a ditch to drain out.
Okay.
So hopefully on the 3 to 4 homes, whatever it may be, hopefully those were none of the negative ones.
Find out.
Okay, no names, no addresses,
No.
but
And then the reason for asking them was this is a complete change to how the county has done development roads. It's worked in areas that we've done this before. We've never done it in a development road because we've never made changes to development roads as they were developed unless there was a TIF involved. So the reason for them asking that was to try and get ahead of the game, to bite any complaints in the butt before they came an issue, and to show those individuals where they could see what we intend to do to this road out on other county roads, to see how it's behaving, see how it's reacting. Because this is not something new. This is not something that we just came up with, we're thinking of. This is commonly done. We've done it commonly throughout this county in areas where we have had issues with washboarding, issues with base failure. It's a pretty well-established process for us, ourselves, and throughout the state.
okay, I know Ty and Jennifer, I don't get out there all the time, but when I was out there, everybody seemed to drive sensible. You guys are out there more. Is speeding part of an issue out there?
The one young man who had that issue is no longer living out there.
Okay.
His father told me, he's 18, stop him yourself. He'll get a better idea if one of the neighbors tells him to slow down. So we're good. I do have a question, though, since we're all in this and we're all being open. You've all heard the term redistribution of the wealth. Me and Brendan kind of have a common goal of redistribution of the road, because that's really what takes place. You build the road up, cars pick it up, mud, gravel, it gets redistributed. He can do this. He knows long-term a chip and seal would be the best way to seal the top side of it to stop a lot of issues that happen, because moisture is the enemy. But since you're always dealing with redistribution, the road is constantly breaking down. I'm more concerned with if we could look forward to a more permanent change, when budgetarily do we need to look at what that is, and what would you need from a time frame from the homeowners association, so that 3-4 years from now, because this isn't just me, you guys all know there are 4 or 5 other neighborhoods that we could have changed the heading of this letter and they would have presented the exact same thing. They have the same issues. You guys are all aware of this. It's very open. I'm simply asking, like, I don't want to come back here in the future and go, hey, we're willing to work with you. Can we do this? And we go, well, we would love to, but guess what? Now we have to rebuild and start the whole process over, which only, so let's all just be open and talk about how long would a road improvement last before we went, oh no, we got to do it all again before we can look at any kind of an improvement, because all that did was cost us more money, more time.
Well, I can speak from some experience. I've watched a number of these roads, and now that you're getting to the end of the development, the improvements that Brendan is speaking of will last longer than at the beginning. So that will help. As far as doing a more permanent solution, you're correct. There's probably close to 18 or 19 developments in our county.
Yes.
That you could, 20? 5? Okay, so, I mean, what you're asking is you're correct. There's a number of developments we could change the name on the letter and have the same conversation. And I think, and that's, us as a commission have taken a lot of time trying to discuss and trying to figure out a long-term goal on how to get to a better position. So it's taken a lot of work, and there's maybe some other programs that we need to look at to achieve those goals. I'm not saying that it's definitely no. I live in one of those. Okay, I live in one of them. I would love to see changes made. Doing it responsibly is going to be a very
I
key
just
issue.
don't want to see us, we make an initiative today to move forward.
Right.
3 years from now, we went, well, we didn't follow through, and we backed up, and we're now back at square one.
Right.
These developments aren't going away. Past commission would do anything they could to stop them. But gentlemen, they're here, and they're not going away. You live in one, Nate. You live in one. I'm glad you guys are choosing to be responsible. Step to the occasion and see what we can do. If it takes input from the communities, ask for it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all living in this community, all of us.
Oh, definitely. So I think honestly, from my standpoint, the best thing we can do is to start, well, with our conversation here today, and then start with the base, because we can't do anything without a proper base.
And I'm just asking,
Yeah.
how long do you honestly think this base improvement would last, Brendan? 3 years, 5 years? What's the time frame we could get out of this before we're back to square one? Because we don't want to come back to here again.
Right.
So Reservation Road, we did the same treatment to in the area right by the stop sign at Canterbury about right when I started here, a few months after that. So nearly 4 years ago, still in great shape. It's an unpaved road. It's going to take continual maintenance. It won't be the same forever. So we'll routinely add material, mill in new material as needed. But once you mill the rock in, do that initial mill, a lot of it is just the top coating of the sand that's needed then, because your base will stay intact. It won't break down. Eventually, about 15 years on a rock road is what we get for general life expectancy, with a 2 to 3 inch lift on it. So in 15 years, I'd probably do the same thing again, where I mill in new rock. But that's 15-year treatment for a couple $1,000s.
I believe also, correct me if I'm wrong, and this predates you, Brendan, but I believe Commerce Parkway South, or I guess it'd be 270th Avenue, south of Commerce Parkway, south of the concrete. That was, at one time, there was a bunch of rock milled into there all the way down to the bridge, around the Munger Bridge. I don't think it went south of there.
I think it went down to Mount Pleasant.
Okay. So that's been, gosh, it's been 20 years now.
It could use it again.
I was going to say, it's at that point, but up until then, it's held up until the past, we went through a wet spell in 2020, and now we're in a dry spell. So, but up until then, it seemed to last fairly decent. And that has just about as much traffic as the road that's up in your area.
Yeah, that's correct for that area. Reservation Road is drastically higher than that
Right.
area roadway.
Yep.
And that's 4 years of how we don't have the washboards appearing that would appear the moment after we even use serrated blades and cut it in, because there's no binder particle. There's nothing to hold the sand together. It's rounded marbles. So you need something to have them grab onto each other. It's like when you build a sandcastle with a kid. When it's wet, it'll stack up nicely. But I don't have enough trucks or enough water in the county to run water everywhere, and even then, you'll start tracking through it. So you need something with some fines and some binder that can hold moisture and hold those particles together.
So I think the answer to the question that you asked is probably, we could feasibly look at a 10-year period that we would have, that it would hold up without very little maintenance, and that's not the correct way. We're going to have increased maintenance from where we're at today. However, I think changing just the base is going to get us at least a 10-year period to hopefully develop a longer-term goal or solution within that time frame. And there may be programs and events that come along that help speed that process up.
What's your thought, Brandon, on, I know 25's right here. Is that road good enough right now for them, or would you guys like to see a little bit of some of the areas touched up? I'm talking to President, Vice President. Just to get us into 25, because you never know. Is there any spots that could use a little bit of attention? I don't want to just piecemeal it in. I guess when I want to do it, I want to do the whole
To answer your
thing.
question, there are, I think there's 5 or 6.
3 big ones that I'd like to hit right away,
Yeah, one of them is,
right next to your house.
yeah, that's an eighth of a mile through that curve. That becomes more of an engineering, I'll be honest with you. Just like you said, you can piecemeal things together here and there. It may work. Sometimes your best option is just you can put a lot of money in an old building, or you can just tear it down and start over. You know how it goes.
I just want to get you guys through the winter
Yeah.
until we can get there in
And
25.
if that is your best budgetary concern and work for doing something more feasible into the next fiscal year, that's by all means, whatever works best in your guys' interest.
Okay, you guys are all right with that,
We got to do what we got to do.
right?
That's the end result. We have to do what we have to do.
Do we know how many and there's lots of subdivisions, but how many are HOAs within the county? There's not that many.
Very few of them
Yeah,
are. There's
okay.
the ones that are HOAs now, it's because they have shared utilities they have public roads, but they're privately maintained.
Okay.
A lot of the existing platted developments, they may have committees, but no true HOA.
True HOA,
I know there's
yeah.
one for Hay City Suburban Estates, but it's not a true HOA, or is it a true HOA?
It's a true HOA.
Okay.
Just kind of for general information
Yeah.
at this time for me. I like,
May I add to that?
sure.
And I believe the reason ours is an HOA is because of the common property that I mentioned. That is
Yeah.
owned by the HOA and not by people.
Okay.
So it's not shared utilities or anything that he mentioned, it's that
Okay.
one piece of property.
With the history, I'd like to know a little more, if we can, clarification on the history that your subdivision gave money to the county at one point, 15 through 18, somewhere in there.
We
But-
did not actually give any money to the
Okay.
county. What was requested of us is that we see how much money we could raise as an HOA.
Okay.
So we voted as an HOA in, I can't remember if it was 2017 or early 2018, but the first year we collected the money was 2018.
Okay.
And we collect a set amount of money per lot for 5 years.
Okay,
And at the end of 5 years, we were to vote again what to do with that money.
Okay.
And at that time, we had no solution. We had nothing to focus the money on.
okay.
So as an HOA.
But you raised it with
we-
the idea from the
Correct.
past
Correct.
county commission that this was going to be used towards a project that fell
Correct.
through one way or the other.
Correct.
So, okay.
So then it was returned. So
To
it
the-
never
to
went to
the
the county.
homeowners
Returned to the
within the-
homeowners, correct.
Thank you.
So it stayed in an account
Okay.
for the HOA and just sat there for 5 years.
Okay. I don't want to put you guys through that again. Would that be an option, again, for a longer-term solution? As we create this base and we're talking about, maybe it's 5 or 10 years that we need to work towards this longer-term solution, would that be an option within your HOA, again, to see if you can find matching funds and work with the county to do a longer-term solution? I don't want to, promise something that already was promised and didn't work, but.
I understand. And I won't promise that it is an option, but what I will promise is that our roads committee and I, as the president, will present it with a good, solid plan, and this is why we have tried to work with the county, is because we know you can't do it without us, and we can't do it without you. I am certainly willing to bring forth any ideas you have and discuss them with our HOA.
Okay. Well, don't do that at this time, because we certainly have to discuss that, but I think that from my standpoint as a commissioner, anytime you can find matching dollars, whether it's an HOA, whether it's federal grants, it
Right.
makes it much easier for the commission to approve a project that we
Sure.
don't have to fund fully, that we can work towards.
Sure.
So why the past commissioners didn't, we're not holding them accountable for what they are. We're kind of starting here today.
Yes.
And we want to work
Yes.
towards something, but we also have to know that we can't hold future commissions responsible, but
Right,
we kind of work those pieces together and look for a solution.
right. Thank you.
Good, we took up quite a bit of your time.
That's all right.
No, that's fine. It's a
starts.
conversation that we've started 6-8 months ago, a year ago. I'm glad you came in as a group presenting. And it's a topic that I know all three of us are taking very seriously on trying to move forward with.
Yeah.
So,
And we do appreciate that, and one thing I was going to say in closing is that I thank Mr. McKay for all the work that he's done with Mr. Wilson and the three of you and anyone else who's been part. We really appreciate it. As the HOA president, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I can provide email and phone number. And if there's anything you can, that you need from us, we do try to help. If this plan does eventually go through, I can work with Mr. McKay on how to communicate with the people in our group so that they know, when work will be done, so that they can adjust accordingly and try to prevent anyone from being upset. More information in the front is always the way I like to work, and try to prevent any issues that might come up. And so, thank you.
Very good.
Very good, thank
I do
you.
have one final question.
Yes, sir.
I do understand a lot about how government works. You can't create funds out of thin air. You can. It's not very fun to do so.
Right.
Just like as an HOA, we can create funds out of thin air, but it's not very fun to do so if we had to. That was my point of asking about if he does an improvement. If we want to work toward a more long-term solution. As Mr. Burgess used to be on the city, they're working 5 years out. You guys are just now trying to implement all of a new procedure to get us to work down the road. So when we're talking today, we're talking about something that happens 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Currently, what are your thoughts on looking forward if we want to bring something in the future? 3 years, 5 years? I mean, you have a long way to work, and it gives everybody time to make sure that when we come to the table, we all have our ducks in a row, so to speak.
As you know, it's all associated with a cost, so a couple of bridges go.
It's
I can say
associated with
5
cost. You
years.
may not be on this commission in 5 years, and the next guy scraps
Yeah.
the whole thing. This is the
Absolutely.
part of government that everybody hates.
Yep.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, hypothetically, you're looking at 3, 5, you know what your budgetaries are and what you're looking at right now for your hot spots, what you know you have to address.
Well, I can tell you right now off of our strategic plans and some of our equipment, or not equipment, but some of just the bridge and infrastructure plans, we've got the next 12 years of asphalt pre-planned out. We've got the next 4 or 5 years of bridges planned, and some of that is subject to change because of, well, I mean, for sure, 5 years
Yeah.
with the commission that's present. And then we have grants that have fallen through on some bridges that are gonna have to get changed around so we can move forward on something. So, a 5-year plan is about the absolute closest we could even think to bring something in. And there's, let's say between 20 and 30 other developments. So if we want to put something together countywide as a program, then we may need to look, I mean, that's something that we could look at and developing a completely separate program. So, but it would probably take a 5-year implementation to get it off the ground.
That's good.
Thank you.
I mean, there's many, many neighbors out there that live in these divisions, just like us. They all need some of the same attention. We just happen to be the first ones that you reached out to.
You're the first ones here.
Came before you. You're kind of getting an eye-opener of what's going on.
So let Mr. McKay go in there in 25,
Sure.
get us a good base down. Now you're looking at another year to get everything how he wants it, to get the fish ponds filled in. There's 2.
Or 2,
So now we'll
yes.
get that 3rd year.
I'm just asking for,
Sure.
you guys don't like to create money out of thin air. We don't want to create money out of thin air either.
And that's, if moisture will help us, that's the big thing.
Correct? We all good?
I think so.
You guys are?
Very
Fine,
good.
gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our interim health administrator and public health officer.
Board of Commissioners, Darren Myers, County Administrator. Walking up to the podium this morning is Mr. Kerry McHugh. As you all know, the commission has accepted the resignation of the previous health administrator out of the health department, and within the last couple of commission meetings, we've formed a contract to contact Mr. McHugh and bring him in as the interim director until we have the process or the position filled. Kerry McHugh retired in 2019 from Ellis County with over 30 years of service. He was the previous EMS director as well as the last 3 years as the health director. So he has experience within the health department and did a lot of changes, moved the health department from the 6th and Main out to behind USAfe Pharmacy on Canterbury and get that office established and growing. And in 2019, actually had the highest level of revenues in the past 11 years for the health department. So very gracious of Mr. McHugh coming back and stepping out of retirement a little bit as a contractual employee for the county to help the health department. So I asked Mr. McHugh to come to the meeting today. I know he's met with some of you, but see if you wanted to say a few words.
I really don't have a report, but I would like to thank you for the opportunity to help through this transition period. Been there about a week and have been prioritizing some of the things that Darren has talked to me about, and so hopefully we'll be moving forward with some of those items, and we'll inform you as we go.
Good. Thank you, and I appreciate you coming back on board for.
Thank you. It's good to
Thank
see
you,
everybody.
and that's a good honor for us as Ellis County, for you coming back,
Well,
help us out. And not only that, thank you for keeping up all your certifications. So you stepped right in running. So
thank you very much. I
Gary.
appreciate the opportunity.
As part of the health department, we have a Ellis County public health official, and with the resignation of the previous health director, that position needs to be filled just in case probably nothing happens that we need to have discussions with the public health officer and to make decisions in that. But if the commission could make the appointment for Mr. McHugh to fill that position until we have the full-time health administrator position approved, that would be what we're asking today as well.
Okay, I move to appoint Carrie McHugh as the Ellis County Health Officer.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you again.
thank you.
you.
Have a good week.
You too.
Okay, next we have Motorola Smart Transcription Service.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Ridgway, Director of Communications for Ellis County. In 2024 and a little bit in 2023, the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council, the Operations Committee of that council, has been conducting a review of Motorola's Smart Transcription, the service, and the benefit it may provide to the public safety answering points or the 911 centers across the state. In conducting its review of this service, the council at its last meeting elected to offer this service as an optional service to the 911 centers. And this request today is to move forward with that acquisition for our center of the Smart Transcription service. And in a short summary of what it will provide for our center is when a call, whether it be a 911 call or administrative call, is received by a center, this service will actually transcribe that phone call from a voice to where the callers can see what's being said. And some of the early benefits is I had an opportunity to talk to a center out of Tennessee, and some of the benefits that they were seeing and allowed them to help cut down on some of the verification processes that we should go through in our best practices to verify a location of a call. They're able to accept that transcription as serving as one of those validations of, say, the caller said 123 Main Street, and it transcribed it as that. They can use that as a visual reference as what the caller actually said. They can also use it as a kind of a helping them remember what the caller said, so they don't have to take everything notated as it's being notated for them, give them a little bit more time to get that added into the CAD screen or the dispatch screen. So the concept is that one part is to help make the job a little bit easier for the dispatcher. Another benefit that some centers were seeing with this service was to allow them to bridge a gap when a non-English caller were to call the center, and it is able to translate that into text. Now, it doesn't translate back of what the dispatcher is talking to but it's a kind of a one-way translation, which potentially could allow the call to be, that gap be bridged while the caller is being transferred, or we're looping in an actual translator on, where we can at least see location of the call, what service they're requiring, and while we're trying to get a translator on the phone to get better details, we can get those services moving quicker. So, and finally, we hope it to be utilized as a training tool as we train new dispatchers to be able to look at what they heard versus what was actually said by the caller as a resource. Now, the cost for the service, majority of the cost is going to be picked up by the 911 Council. They are going to cover the cost to configure all the main servers that are hosted in the two main hosted sites out of Topeka and Wichita. And then each site, each PSAP who elects to have this service has been offered a 70-30 grant where the state will pay 70% of the cost, and each local, to have some buy-in, if you will, is to have to cover 30% of the cost. Now, the cost that's estimated for Ellis County, if we would move forward, is $7,950. This would be for a 5-year service agreement, and it would cover all 5 full seats that we have. We have 8 total seats. 3 of them are classified as soft seats, meaning they don't have everything. They're just kind of a partial seat. We have 5 full seats, 4 at the main site and 1 of our backup site. Because of the agreement that the 911 Council did with AT&T, who's the contracting entity, who then subcontracts to Motorola, we are required to license each of our full seats, and we can't just do 1, 2, or 3. We have to do all 5. So again, that's where we get to the $7,950 for the 5-year service agreement, if you will. And this expenditure does fall within the current 2024 budget.
Is that 7,950, is that annually, or is
It's a one-time for 5 years, and then after 5 years, if we choose to continue the service, it would be up for renewal at that time.
Okay.
So Jeff, this will hopefully help out with the tragic death of a young lady in Wichita, the time where she could not be located. This will help us on that.
I don't know if that, in that case scenario, a location situation, this doesn't tie into location
Okay.
unless they speak the location. And what you would give, potentially have translated that and allowed that to be displayed on the screen for the dispatch to review what's being said. And we're also told that it's very sensitive, so it does pick up back things that are being said in the back of the caller, as well as things that are being said on the back of the center. So we have to be cautious as well. But it can be very sensitive, and sometimes those things being said behind the caller can be very crucial in determining the nature of the call, whether, especially in domestic situations where we're having a caller that is in risk, but because of whatever they're worried about is so close to them that they can't speak freely, if you will. And so this may be an avenue that picks up some of those behind-the-scenes stuff, that's not actually the caller, but the background noise that could help also translate some of that.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Will this help with our record keeping on such calls? I guess.
Potentially. Again, it would provide that instant translation or transcribing of the call, and so that there is a potential that there could be some benefit to that aspect. This is unfortunately one of those services where I'm not 100% sure of everything it can offer until we really get into it, and we're not in a position where we could actually test it more than the observations and the phone calls that we've had through other centers.
Okay.
The dispatcher transcribes everything they hear? Or
Currently,
how?
as a call is received, and the caller will put select data into our dispatch system, our computer-aided dispatch, or CAD, and so they'll manually type in the address. 911 calls, if the 911 system identifies like a landline in that address, that will actually populate over into our CAD system, or the GPS coordinates will populate over in the CAD system, and then we would manually update it when we have local names to associate with that GPS. And then they would just manually type that information, keynotes and stuff like that. But this would be a more of a, I would debate a permanent record, if you will, more visual record of what's being said. Again, making sure that we're getting the key details.
Is that record then, I guess, subpoenable, like if they end up in court?
Yes.
Sometimes you hear the voice, we hear 911 calls, and
Correct.
that's part of court.
That record would be subject to CORA as well. We would obviously be able to redact it depending on the nature of the incident and some the information that might be in there. But yes, it would be subject to subpoena. Previously, when we've had requests for transcriptions of our 911 calls, our response has been we don't transcribe them, but we'd be able to utilize this as a tool that would help with that. Yes.
Okay. I see this as part of us staying ahead of the game, being at the front line of this.
Correct. Some of the smaller centers around the state haven't, we're not sure of the usage. I think the initial survey that the state did to the PSAPs across, of the 105 counties, roughly 20 at the moment had some interest in this and trying to figure out, again, as the smaller centers are trying to see more case usage and see how it might value the benefit to them. I do feel that this would put us on the leading edge in trying to stay ahead of the technology and trying to leverage what the next generation system will provide us. And as we learn more about what we can do and how do we leverage that to provide a better service to our community.
Okay.
Is that 911 council, is that the fee, like we all pay a 911 fee on our phone bills? Is that where that's
Currently,
coming from? Or-
there is a 911 tax that is applied to cell phone services. I don't recall its application to landlines. There might be some, but I know it's primarily on cellular service, and that is distributed. All those taxes, also like Verizon, T-Mobile, all those carriers pay the council, and the council distributes that back to the local entities, and that distribution amount is based off the population. The 2024 adjustment in the law provides now that Ellis County will receive 100% of those funds that are collected from Ellis County do come back to Ellis County, because they changed the population tier. We were previously at 97%, now we're at 100%. So.
Very good. Any other questions?
No. I move to approve PO 7843 for the purchase of Motorola Smart Transcription from the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council Service for the Dispatch Center.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll move to the EMS Training Director job description.
Good morning, Danita Schrader, Ellis County EMS Director. I'm coming to you today following the resignation of our EMS Assistant Director. We just wanted to evaluate his position and found that really we needed some changes in the job duties of that position. So in order to meet our departmental needs, we wanted to maintain a quality work balance for the role. So we wanted to create an EMS Training Director job. Really my intent with this is after COVID, we lost a lot of employees that had a lot of time and a lot of educators. So we're in the process of building that back up. It's hard to find somebody with the experience, especially with the education experience. So as we put our job out to try to find somebody to replace that, if we have somebody that is mainly interested in education but has no supervisory experience at all, we can grow them. So I would like to start them out in the training position and then set a good foundation for them and have them go through leadership training or other training to become get more supervisory experience under them, and then be able to move them up into the assistant director position while still maintaining the education side of it, as well as helping us out like we do now. So with the help of the Arnold Group and Jennifer, we created this new position. I just come to you today asking that you approve the job description for the EMS training director. I'm not going to have 2 employees. Like I said, if we find somebody that's the perfect educator but doesn't have any supervisory, we will train them up and hopefully move them up. We could be lucky too and also find somebody that has both of those too, and then we could just put them in the assistant director position. It is placed at job grade 33 in accordance with the compensation policy and procedure. It's an FLSA non-exempt hourly paid position. We have in there that it'll be a full-time position and their days may fluctuate because sometimes we do training on the weekends, and so that would accommodate for that, adding up their 40 hours. I guess, do you have any questions for me?
So this position will be mostly training
Yes.
and not going out on calls?
I mean, they can go out on calls and help guide the technicians. I would like to see that with them and then get a better understanding of, if it's somebody from outside of our department that we happen to hire, then yes, I want them going on calls and seeing how our system works and how to better get to know our employees and their strengths and weaknesses and focus on that.
Okay.
I like that idea that they would go out that way. Right here it says it, training, so he or she can look at it and say, hey, this is where we need improvement, we're good. I like that idea. I move to approve the EMS training director job description.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Anita.
Okay. Next, the 2024 mid-year sales ratio study.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Eugene Rowe,
Morning,
County
Eugene.
Appraiser. This will hopefully be pretty brief here. Just wanted to go over the 2024 mid-year ratio study results that we've received so far. I don't know if you recall, about a month or so ago, I went over the 2023 final ratio study results. This is the exact same type of reporting. It's just showing where we are at so far in the first 6 months of our 2024 tax year cycle. So in regards to the residential ratio, we are at a 97.4%, which based off of 133 valid sales. We did have 14 trim sales in there. Those 14 trim sales, what those are considered outliers within a market or a set of sales. You will have sales that are considered valid, but maybe you have some on the extreme high end, some on the extreme low end, and the state considers over certain thresholds, they're considered outliers, so they kind of pull those out so that, for lack of a better way of putting it, you're kind of looking at the meat and potatoes of your data, everything right through the center after those outliers are trimmed. So on the residential side, you'll see we did have 133 sales there that were considered valid. And that 97.4, again, that is 100% would mean we're hitting, of those sales, we're hitting right at 100%. 97.4 is, in my opinion, an excellent ratio to have. It just means we're, again, just slightly under appraising our residential, but that's where I would prefer to be, is just a little bit under that 100%. So we're doing very well on that. I'll jump down to the commercial ratio. As you can see there, we've only had 5 sales that the state considers valid in the first 6 months of this year. We are at a 74 ratio. Of those 5 sales, the county has appealed 2 of those to PVD. One of them would be a wind tower site, which is actually agricultural land, but because of the commercial class for the tower base, it got sucked into this set of statistics. So that one will likely get removed by the state because of the agricultural use on it. The other one that we have appealed is the sale of the Dollar General in Victoria. And we appeal that one for the reason that you're really not buying the building, you're buying the long-term lease value of that building. So we do expect those 2 will be pulled out. Leaves us with 3 sales in the first 6 months of this year. Not a lot of data points to hang our hat on, but we have had sales since the first 6 months of the year that we feel we're going to bring this up. So while we are a little bit low with that 74, I'm not concerned with it at this point in time. Again, this is just kind of a snapshot of where we're at for those first 6 months. Any questions for me?
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Is the trend of less sales or more sales?
Over the past 2 to 3 years, mainly the last 2 years, we've seen the overall volume of sales that we are recording in the county here, a transaction that's had money exchanged. It is dipping slightly. I think we're still, in our higher years, we've had upwards of 700-800 sales within a year. I believe we're going to be in the upper 600s with where we're trending so far. Some of that has to do with mortgage rates. Some people aren't willing to move and lose their existing mortgage for something different. So again, and as you hear from Grow Hayes, we do have a bit of a housing shortage here in the county as well. So there's not always a lot of homes on the market at any one point in time that are available. So as far as the sales themselves, we are, and again, this is at this point in time, this would be in my opinion, is that the market is starting to settle out just a little bit based upon the sales that I'm looking at. Again, this would be very preliminary, just based on those first 6 months of the year. I've not dug real hard into the ratios yet. That'll be starting, our analysis will be starting for tax year 2025 here in the coming months. So I should have some more insight here as we get closer to the end of the year. Thank you.
I'm just curious on these trim sales, looking at those, what do you do, I guess, once it's sold? So, I mean, you can look at these outliers. This one sold for $440,000 and appraised at $185,000. So how do you treat it after that fact? Do you go in as appraiser now and say, well, it sold at $440,000, so appraise there?
When we look at valid sales, there's actually two different types of validity. There's the validity that we will use internally within our department, and then there's also the validity that the state sets for theirs. They have a different set of criteria than we would use. Theirs is maybe a little more technical. They may not dig into, they may not call the buyer, call the seller, or dig into the results. Obviously they're going over tens of thousands of sales statewide, so they will throw things out on a technical basis. If on the sales validation questionnaire, if something comes in and just a simple box is checked one way or the other, they will throw things out based on technical standards. Some of those sales that they throw out, we may consider to be valid. So again, the ones these are throwing out here aren't necessarily going to be representative of what we may or may not use. Within the market, as well as we're doing analysis and picking comparable sales for residential properties, I fully understand that, again, one person, it may be an open market transaction, but one person may overpay just simply because their spouse really loved this location or this tree in this yard. And one person, again, may be a valid sale, but maybe they really needed to move out of the county quickly, so they may have sold this house quickly.
There's another
look
one on
through
there,
those
it's like
type of things.
$70,000 for 136, and that's about half of what we appraised it at.
Some of these other numbers may also represent changes to the property that we're not aware of. Maybe, we do re-inspections on property once every 6 years. So, and while ideally, either at the county level and especially at the city level, you're required to get a city permit, not everybody does that. So sometimes a house may sell, and I'll just use a number, it may sell for $200,000 and we have 150 on this house. As that sale comes through and we're validating it, we may learn that the basement has been finished, but a permit never got taken out. So some of these outliers you see like that too may represent situations similar to that, where maybe a change to this property has occurred that the county is not aware of because a permit was taken out, or we just, within our 6-year cycle, we only do 17% of the county a year. We may not have caught that type of change, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, like I say, line 146 was the same way, whereas appraised value is way up there, and it's, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't tell you the specific on these, but those would be some of the scenarios that may cause that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate this. Okay, next we're moving on to the 2025 insurance renewal updates.
Darren Myers, County Administrator. Next couple items on your agenda deal with our 2025 renewal rates for different types of benefits that we offer our employees in Ellis County, mainly health, dental, and vision. There's a lot of numbers on here, and it would be a fun process to be able to explain all of this in how each line item is figured, but to kind of break it down and keep it somewhat simple. The good news is in 2025, we had planned on a 7% budgetary increase on our health insurance for the year. When we got our renewal rates in a couple weeks ago, the Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal percentage, or the rates had a decrease of 1.27%. So those first couple boxes show our premiums for our umbrella policy with Blue Cross Blue Shield for the last 4 years, or this year, next year, and the last 2 years. And you can see that those umbrella rates had decreased. In the previous couple of years, we had also had Delta Dental as our dental care provider for dental insurance. And this year, FCMI, which is the company that we consult with and has our our administrative access to our medical expense reimbursement program, they went and got additional quotes from Delta Dental, but with also Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the rates for Delta Dental had about a 9% increase based on the smaller of the two plans that they had presented. However, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, they provided a similar type plan with a little bit better benefits to our employees at a discounted rate as well. So overall, Blue Cross and Blue Shield provided renewal rates for health and a new rate for dental that are less than what was budgeted for, as well as less than we are paying this year, which is very uncommon. And then our Vision Care Direct, which is a benefit that the employees pay 100% of the premium for, had no change for premiums for 2025. Moving on through the process, FCMI, like I say, they're the company that we consult with, and they manage all of our programs. They did not have a rate increase for the upcoming year as well. How this all works, basically we have a premium set that is for the employees' health care insurance, and then you take that payment and then you subtract the FCMI payments, you subtract the Blue Cross Blue Shield umbrella policy, and then you subtract the Delta Dental or Blue Cross Blue Shield in the future. And all those fees get you a balance, which is also shown in some of these graphs that show what is being transferred to reserves. With the current rates that we have and the decreased rates, that means our reserve balance will increase. Since January of 2023, that was the highest our reserve, Employee Health Care Reserve Fund had its highest balance in the last 4 years of $1.12 million. However, within the last couple of years, we had one big year, 2 years ago, that had a significant health insurance increase, as well as the year before that. But the Wage and Benefits Committee, as well as the Commission at that time, helped to absorb some of those price increases so that way it wasn't impacting our employees' out-of-pocket expenses as much for their premiums. But since January 23, about $2,000 to $3,000 a month at the high end was being decreased out of that reserve fund, and the current balance is $1.04 million. So that balance is starting to decrease. So the Wage and Benefits Committee, when they were looking at all these proposals, also looked at they took into account of the decrease in premiums, but also looked at the overall growth, or at this time, decline of the reserve fund. And we looked at different proposals to increase the premiums for 2025 overall. And the plan premiums for employees, the proposal is that we would, from their 2024 rates to 25, the employee, the single plans would increase by $5 a month overall. So that's county and employee share. And then the 3 other plans, 1 employee spouse, 2 employee child, or 3 the family plans for either Plan A or Plan C would increase by $10 a month. That equates out for the employees on the single plan to 35 cents a paycheck, or 70 cents a paycheck for any of the other plans for the employee portion when you look at the overall increase of $5 or $10 per plan. With that, the Wage and Benefits Committee also looked at the MASSA Air and Ground Transportation Service, which is paid for by the county, and that's the air and ground coverage. So that way, if an employee, their spouse or children, anybody on their plan in their household has a flight, like on a helicopter or a fixed-wing aircraft to medical emergency or ground transportation through an ambulance, there's coverage that. That rate also did not increase for 2025 as well. And the Wage and Benefits Committee would like to keep that as a option for our employees. Before I get into the Center for Health Improvement and Fort Hays Golf Course, I will stop at that point to see if there's any discussion on first the employee side of the health care benefits.
So, go ahead.
Well, as I know, it's been years since I've heard Blue Cross Blue Shield dental, so that's amazing that they are that competitive, which is good. So.
Okay. Just for clarification, we are going to get a reduction or a savings, more or less, but that savings will be absorbed by building the reserves.
Correct. So then we'll have a reduction in the premiums, but the prices that the employees pay will still go up, like I say, 35 or 70 cents a check, depending on that. That's the employee's portion of that. So that way, instead of having I think as of this year, we've that fund has decreased about $11,000-$12,000. Hopefully, with the rebound or with the changes of this, with the savings plus the very slight increase in premiums, and some changes to the prescription drug programs, there's an estimated savings there for that's not just with our plan, that's the entire state of Kansas on what's being covered for generics. We should have positive growth starting next year, so that fund starts to slightly increase again.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's my clarification. So the 174 goes to that reserve. That's 1.04 million right now.
So the 174,000, that's what you're referring to as budget savings. So what that actually comes for is when we put the budget together, the health care or health insurance line item out of each budget will that 174,000 is split between all departments.
All the departments.
So when we make budget adjustments next year for COLA, all the current rates that we now know, or if the county commission approves it, those rates will be backed out of all the departments, so that way they don't have that extra 174,000 split, and mainly that's between Public Works, the Sheriff's Office, and EMS. It's the highest percentage of the employees. But that will be backed out, and then that can be reallocated for the cost for the COLA raises for employees next year. So, which is budgeted, but the commission made the decision to add those increases in summer of next year. So we basically, instead of using, just say all things are equal, if the COLA percentage raises were 174,000 is what we'd budgeted, that's coming out of the budget stabilization, then would be reallocated into everybody's budget. When we make those budget changes, those adjustments, we'll back out the $174,000 out of all the departments, and that essentially could then be redistributed for the COLA adjustments.
Okay.
And then the budget stabilization line at that point would not be touched at all.
Okay.
So we still wouldn't be spending that 174,000. It's just where all the 174,000 is pulled back out of health insurance, and then not as much would be needed to be pulled out or used for the budget stabilization line.
Okay.
So the cost savings that we have where the reserve fund increases, if all things were equal, a premium is $100 a month, $86 gets paid by the county. That's our share. The county, the county share of that $100. The other $14 comes out of the employee deductions. That $100 then combined goes to the employee benefit fund. And then so if this person pays 100, this person pays 100, et cetera, there's a total amount, and it's usually about $220,000, maybe a little bit more, that gets deposited into that fund, and then almost that exact same amount gets paid to the monthly bill for FCMI, the monthly bill for the medical expense reimbursement program based on claims, the Delta dental payment, the Blue Cross Blue Shield payment. And then whatever, if we're putting in $200,000, but the expenses coming out are only $190,000, that $10,000 stays in that fund, and that's what builds that fund over time.
Okay.
And I can pull that spreadsheet up so you can see that trend line if you would like to see it.
Well, go on that screen go up to the health plans. Or yeah, down. Okay, so if I'm looking at this right, I'm gonna use the one to the Plan C employee. We budgeted $898.80 per employee. It's actually $845. So then we come down here to $845, and that reserve funding, the $149.28, that's what's going towards that reserve fund.
Correct.
And that part's going, so as an employee, I'm paying, or however that premium's being paid, part of that premium is actually not going to our insurance, going to that reserve fund.
Correct.
Okay.
And that was the biggest change that we had when we moved off the state employee health care plan, is when we were paying, say for instance, I'll highlight it on the screen, if that monthly premium for a single employee was $845, we were paying the state employee health plan $845. And then based on claims, which we had a 5-year claims history, we were paying more in premiums than we were in claims. So for that $845, if that's what we were paying, but we only had $800 in claims, that $45 the state kept. Now, in this plan, that $45 stays in our bank account.
Okay.
It continues to build interest, and we can use that to offset future weight. So that $149 that you see here, out of that line.
Yep.
I'll just highlight that whole entire line there. The Blue Cross umbrella policy only costs us $554. The HSA for that, that's the health savings account, is $83. So when you take $845 minus these different fees, that gets you down to $149.28. That remaining fee of that initial premium is what goes into our reserve fund.
Okay.
Now, those numbers would have been different if we would have had,
And
as you
that's
said.
up, but that part's up just a little bit.
Correct. All the reserve
That's
funding
for a year,
amounts.
$149.28 for the year or for?
Per month.
Per month, okay. Okay. And that's where these increases, it says down below, about $5, $10 per month as far as an employee, what they'll see out of there.
Correct. So like the Plan C the payments here, the current premium for an employee on Plan C single is $840. It will be $845 come January.
Okay.
Employee spouse currently is $1,640 a month.
Okay.
It's now $1,650.
Okay. That seems fair. Seems like, actually seems more than fair if we're building our reserves to use for future, and also potentially using that savings then for COLA adjustments, so. Okay.
I will also recognize Braden Park with the Sheriff's Office. He is the chair for the Wage and Benefits Committee, and he is here to not only be recognized, but if the commission would like to visit with him about this process, about the rates and why they voted for, or voted to suggest these, he would be more than willing to come up and talk. I can see he's very anxious.
Morning, Commissioners. Braden Park, Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, Chair of the Wage and Benefits Committee.
Yeah, I don't have any specific answer to all the specific questions I had. I should have waited for him to come up, and then I could ask it. No, I appreciate the work. It's hard where you got to kind of do all this and speak for everybody within the county for the benefits and make some, like we do, you have to make some tough decisions. There's a little bit of increase. That's not anything that's going to probably hurt anybody. Take-home pay, and then ultimately, I think it's going to benefit your employees across the county as we look at COLA increases. I think that'll help the employees even more. So appreciate the work that you put in.
Thank you, Braden.
Thank you. They do a great work, and I'll commend everybody on that Wage and Benefits Committee. We do meet several times a year, not just for this, but other items as well. But they do take into consideration of the needs of the county, the employees, and then working through with Jennifer and I on actually talking about the rate increases, and they take into account what's going to help their employees, and but looking at the long-term solution, they also realize that we've had several good years, but come 2027, we could have a 12% increase. Hope we don't, but those are the harder years to make.
Fund comes in, right?
Correct.
I mean, we build that up so that way if we have a massive increase, a double-digit, then we can protect the employee's paycheck by taking that reserves and using it to offset the increase.
Correct, the employee as well as the county budget as well for our portion. And then also, as that continues to look, FCMI continues to look at our policy to a point where they pull us a report and they give it to us every year of the large claims that we have. And she continues, Julie Yarmer, she's the president of FCMI, she continues to assess our situation, our reserve funding amounts and our claims, our large losses, to determine a point when we might be able to become a self-funded plan and completely eliminate the Blue Cross Blue Shield piece out of it and have the adequate reserves to, based on our trends, to see if we could become a self-funded plan, and then we could change to that. But at this point, we're not to that, and then with the last year and a half, as you can see, those funds have decreased. We're not on a trend to do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I do appreciate the Wage and Benefits Committee because, as everybody knows, the strike going on in the eastern states, that's what a lot of them are asking for, health insurance and different, better insurance. So kudos to you all that put a lot of hard work into this to keep and retain our employees. That means a big part when you got a family, especially.
I'm sorry.
I was going to make the motion, so.
Oh, well, the last two items on the agenda, I want to make a clarification piece of it. The Wage and Benefits Committee also heard two other proposals for additional benefits for the employees. One is for the Center for Health Improvement to have a corporate account set up with HR so that way employees could enter into a wellness agreement or wellness plan membership at the Center for Health Improvement to go out there and exercise, use the facility. I believe that was a 20% discount off the posted listing prices if you were to get that membership yourself. Jennifer, our HR manager, worked to get that put in as possible, and so at this point, if the commission would allow us to at least consider that piece, we could sign that document, get it back to CHI, and a member or employees could get that 20% discounted rate. However, we would not at this point look at a payroll deduction. The employees would still get the premium, they would just have to pay their or ACH withdrawal out of their bank accounts, et cetera, for those, however they set that up to get with CHI. It would be the same thing for the Fort Hays Municipal Golf Course. There are several employees that are members or go out there and golf regularly. And in speaking with Colin Belzer with the City of Hays and Kim Rupp, they are open to allow Ellis County to allow our employees the same benefit that they do for their employees. We could also payroll deduct those memberships out and pay those to the city. There are several options yet. As the same with CHI, wouldn't suggest that we do payroll deductions with those, but at least if the commission were available or open to these two new benefits that are really of no cost to the county, we can at least start the process to see what that may look like. But with the changes upcoming with UKG and them being new benefits, we'll hold off on payroll deductions at this point. But if the commission is willing to us to consider, we'll discuss that and come up with a plan for maybe future payroll deductions on those two additional benefits.
So this would be a benefit to those who enroll in it?
Correct. Yeah, it'd just be an option.
Okay.
I guess the easier piece is whether you have it, like for the center, have it deducted out of your bank account, or if it just comes out of your check automatically, it's almost the same thing. You can't do that for the golf membership, so there wouldn't be any percentage of savings. It was just the benefit of being able to offer it, so that way, eventually, if we could do payroll deduction, instead of paying I don't remember what the premiums are, $500 a year all at once when your annual memberships are due. You can just split that over 26 payroll periods, and instead of paying $500 at once, you might be able to pay $20 per check throughout the year.
I mean, I have no problem with that.
I got no problem.
I'd support
Works for
that
me.
also. Give our employees what they're asking for, and it's a want, so why not?
The only true concern I would see with the golf course piece is if, probably have to set some types of, if an employee signed up in January and we payroll deducted and they get their annual membership paid for by the county would be on the hook if somebody were to quit 3 months later. So having payroll deductions on their last paycheck can take that out, but also if they only worked one day out of that payroll period, there may not be enough to cover it. So we need to work through some of those issues as well. Whereas the Center for Health Improvement is a month by month, we just cancel it. But that notification process, how that would work, when it would be done, needs to be identified by HR, so to get those processes stopped.
I agree. I'm okay with going forward with some of those discussions, though.
I am too.
Okay. Well, would you like to make the motion, Michael?
I'll move to approve the renewals for Blue Cross Blue Shield, Health and Dental, FCMI, MASA membership, 2025 premium rates, and authorize the county administrator to sign the renewal documents.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
One addition to this that I did not have on the agenda because they had emailed me and called me after the agenda was already published last week was the rates that we charge for our retirees. I'll pull up a different spreadsheet that you can see on the screen. On the left column is the premiums that are paid, and then, I'm sorry, the right column, the gray column, is the premiums that our retirees paid. And SCMI is suggesting that we increase those rates to the same rates that the employees pay, our current employees pay. There's some slight increases for the retirees, but that way when that fund, when you look at and you back those premiums out, they're not paying the same amount into reserves as our employees are. So they have, the more people that get into the reserve or the retiree rates that pay into those reserves, the more we have in that retiree pool. It's impacting all our current employees, and we're not getting the same deposits in or kept into our reserve fund. So they're suggesting that we raise those rates to match what the employees' rates are from there. So if the commission would be okay with that, that would be the change that was not in your agenda. That would be also approved to, you allow those rates to be changed for FCMI to work with the retirees.
I'm good with that.
I'd go with that, Darren. Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Do you need an official motion for that?
I don't necessarily think we do, as long as the commission is okay.
Okay.
The other motion just has to deal with contractual documents for Blue Cross Blue Shield with FCMI, et cetera, and the termination letter from Delta Dental.
Okay. Well, then I think you have a consensus from us to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, at this time, county administrator report.
Two quick things. As the commissioner is aware, we had the library board citizen interest forms that was published, released, and we asked for different people in the community who may be interested to serve on that board to submit their interest forms, and the due date was yesterday, the end of September. So as of today, we have received 12 interest forms, and I'll double check with the clerk's office upstairs to make sure there's nothing that came in the mail in my mail bin. The last one received was the late last week, which has been submitted to each of the commissioners. So the process for next week is I will resend out all 12, or if we have more upstairs, I'll resend those 12 out to the commissioners this week or today. And then if you could rank from 1 to 12 your number one being your top pick, et cetera, down. You'll email those back individually to me, and then I will, with the top pick being a number one score, each top pick, so each of those 12 applicants will be ranked, and then those scores will be added together. So out of those 12 picks between the three commissioners, the people with the lowest scores would have the highest overall pick of the county. And then next week, I will add those in the commission agenda for the commission to consider. If there's 5 clear numbers or clear candidates that have the least amount of numbers, I'll have those on the agenda for approval. However, if there's a couple that are like the number 5 total tally is tied, we'll have those additional members on the agenda for the commission to determine which of those they'd want to submit to the board. And then, so the top pick over all 3 candidates would have the longest term, so we would do that in reverse order. And then the number 5 pick would have the shortest term, but they would have the option to be reconsidered for reappointment based on what that statute said on those different times throughout the next 4-year process. Just wanted to make sure that process, which we spoke over the phone, was okay with the commission, and I'll get those sent out today for the commission to respond back to.
I'm good with moving forward with that.
Yeah.
Works for me.
I don't know if I ate that up too much on the explanation. And
you want those in by tomorrow?
If you can get me those by tomorrow, because I have to have the agenda back to the clerk by Thursday, so we can get it published.
Okay.
Okay. Have we heard anything further on the state opting out and waiting 2 years, but they would let us know before the end of the year or
I gave,
sooner?
when I stopped to the state librarian in Topeka a month or so ago, he didn't give any indication of when that process would change, but he was hoping at least the written process of changing those regulations would happen within the next couple months.
Okay.
I will be in Topeka on Friday. I might try to stop in and see if he's available, and I'll see if I can get an update for the commission.
Very good. Anything else?
If you're good on that, I'll get those emails sent out, and we'll have a more discussion on that on Friday, or Tuesday next week. The last item is, it's October 1st, and as you'll see in previous years as well, the Ellis County EMS and the fire departments recognize October as, well, we don't, nationally, October is Breast Care Awareness Month. So the fire department and the EMS departments will be wearing pink throughout the community to support that effort. Other than that, that's all I got.
Okay. County Commission reports. Mr. Burgess?
Yeah, participated in the elected official forum last week at the Hayes Middle School. It was a nice forum. The middle schoolers behaved pretty well, listening to us blabber on about our importance in the community. And then yesterday I visited with the attorney's office, went and spoke to both outgoing Robert and then incoming Aaron. And then I visited with Kerry McHugh at the health department, just getting him up to speed a little bit on some things that we're looking at is for him to fill in here in the next few weeks as we work towards finding our full-time health director. And it's October, and it feels like it, and the Royals are in the playoffs, so go Royals, and don't call me after 3 o'clock, because I won't answer.
Very good. Commissioner Younger?
I did attend the city meeting. Some pretty good conversation going on there. Also, I went to the ECCD, which is Ellis County Conservation District, drove with them, and they call it a road tour. It's a tour on see who they want to award some of the conservation practices and that going on. There was 6, 7 of us in there, and they commended a lot on Ellis County Commissioners. Said that we were doing a good job, plus all the staff in Ellis County. So we are being watched in a good way. But anyhow, that was kind of exciting because I got to see more roads that we had in April, so I got to see different parts of it, but very interesting. I also did go to the forum And our road people left out of here, if they think they got road issues up in there, wait till the middle school and the high school gets going. We're gonna have road issues, but anyhow. Also, hopefully everybody can attend the Oktoberfest and be responsible, and there'll be a lot of different booths down there. I know I belong to the Lions Club, and we made 3,500 beer ocks, so go down, and there's a lot of association with people down there, plus a lot of different booths that are fundraisers for our community. And also the RPM will have their 18th final or annual races, so if you can attend that, that also brings a lot of revenue into the community. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, since our last meeting, I attended the quarterly Workforce One meeting, so everything seems to be on track there. They've done a lot of work up here in our county with some of the recent closures and helping individuals find different work. Again, welcome to everyone coming into town for Oktoberfest, and then we had the Fort Hayes Homecoming this weekend as well as part of the Oktoberfest celebration. So kudos to them with Miss Mason being here this morning. So with no other business, we'll move to adjourn at 10:35.